Ay, what is this? Oh my goodness, I can't see anything. I don't know where I'm going. Maybe if I go like this. If I go like this. Ay, what is this? If you want to know why I'm blindfolded, keep watching. Welcome everyone, thank you so much for clicking again. We're so happy that you're enjoying the videos that we have been creating. We do put a lot of effort into those. Also, I want to start with some announcements. Number one, I didn't tell you this and I am very, very sorry, but there's a Bible memorization challenge that is happening. So you know how at the end of the lesson we have a Bible verse for you to memorize? If you memorize at least 2 of those Bible verses, by the end of the month, you might be able to get a surprise. So the way that this works is that you can find either Jackie or myself. You can recite the verses to us in person or send us a short video with it. Number 2, why don't we do a small review of what we learned from the last video? So we learned about the first few verses of chapter 1 in the Gospel of John. We're talking about Jesus being the Word and He being at the beginning and He being the light. Basically, if you cannot see God without Jesus, and in that way also when you are in the dark, you cannot see anything. So you always need the light. So now let me just stop talking and now we're gonna start the video. So now let's start with the lesson for today. But before we do that, if you haven't read the first chapter of the Gospel of John, you should go ahead and do that. If you didn't do that last week, I encourage you to do it because it will help you to learn some other things about Jesus. Also, we're gonna start not in the first verse of the second chapter of the Gospel of John, but we're gonna start in the cleansing of the temple, which is verse 13. So let me go ahead and read that for you. The Passover of the Jews was at hand, meaning it was about to happen. And Jesus went up to Jerusalem. In the temple, he found those who were selling oxen and sheep and pigeons, and the money changers sitting there. And making a whip of cords, he drove them all out of the temple with the sheep and the oxen. And he poured out the coins of the money changers and overturned the tables. And he told those who sold the pigeons, "Take these things away. Do not make my Father's house a house of trade." His disciples remembered that it was written, "Zeal for your house will consume me." It can also be said as love for your house will consume me. So the Jews said to him, "What sign do you show us for doing these things?" Jesus answered them, "Destroy this temple, and in 3 days I will raise it up." Then the Jews then said, "It has taken 46 years to build this temple, and you will raise it up in 3 days?" But he was speaking about the temple of his body. When therefore he was raised from the dead, his disciples remembered he had said this, and they believed the scripture and the word that Jesus had spoken. Now, when he was in Jerusalem at the Passover feast, many believed in his name when they saw signs that he was doing. But Jesus on his part did not entrust himself to them because he knew all people and needed no one to bear witness about men, for he himself knew what was in men. During this time that is described in this scene, anyone who wanted to enter the temple or anyone who wanted to be with God, they had to bring an animal. It had to be a perfect animal so that they could use that as a sacrifice. That's what the law required. So a lot of people came from very, very far places and they didn't have an animal. So there were these people who were selling animals, oxen, sheep, and doves, and pigeons, and all these animals that were required for the sacrifice. And the money changers. The problem with this is that these people were charging way more than they needed to be charging. And that's the reason why Jesus gets angry, because it isn't right what they're doing. First of all, the temple was a place of worship. And second, it wasn't right to be oppressing these people and basically taking their money. So that's why Jesus gets so angry. And it is right for Jesus to get angry because that was a righteous anger, meaning he's holy, he had never sinned. But when we get angry, our anger is usually very selfish and we want to get our way, and we're angry because someone is not letting us get away with what we want, basically. And the most interesting thing is that Jesus actually talks about murder and anger and how they're related. If you want to know more about it, you can just read Matthew 5. And then when Jesus is saying, destroy this temple and I will rebuild it in 3 days, and he's talking about his body, he's literally talking about his body because he's referring to himself dying on the cross and resurrecting on the 3rd day. The crazy thing is that the Jews continue to ask Jesus for a sign over and over again, even though they had the Old Testament, they had the prophets, they had the signs, they had everything they needed, they had the law, but they kept asking for a sign, and Jesus doesn't give it to them. They encountered Jesus in that way. They met Jesus in person. We, on the other side, we didn't meet Jesus in person. We have encountered Jesus in a different way. We have encountered him through the scriptures, through the Bible. And we believe what Jesus says in the Bible about himself. And it actually happened in real life. So as you can see, there's 2 kinds of faith. And there's a 3rd one, which is not faith at all. Let me give you an example of this faith. In the first one, the person is in spiritual darkness. They cannot see anything, they cannot hear anything because they're spiritually dead. They're not even seeking for anything and they don't even know they're dead.
All right, Albany, go to your left. Go to your left.
No, it should be this way.
No, it's to your left. It's over here. It's right there.
I want to do it my own way. I want to go here.
It's not over there. Nope, not there. No, it's not in front of you. It's to your left. Your left.
Right here. I think it's right here. In the second one, I am blindfolded and I cannot see anything. I'm still moving around, but I'm trying to do it on my own. In a similar way, the Jews and the people who didn't believe, but they wanted a sign, they were trying to get their answers on their own. And though, even if they had a sign in front of them, that sign wouldn't have given them faith in Jesus.
All right, Albany, I need you to go to your left. Yes, that direction. All right, keep on going. A little bit more. A little bit more. One more. Okay, now back 1 step. Okay, do you feel the chair? Sit down.
I can see now. In this last one, I am blindfolded, so I cannot see anything on my own. But I am hearing and following the direction of someone who can see. In the same way, when we hear the scriptures, that's what happens. We are able to find our way. When we hear and understand the scriptures and what this say about Jesus, our eyes are uncovered and we're able to see and meet Jesus. Now, some questions for you to think about. Think about your own faith. Do you have true faith in Jesus even though you haven't seen him in person? And for this week's Bible memorization is Hebrews 11:1. Faith makes us sure of what we hope for and give us proof of what we cannot see. Alright, that's all for today's lesson. Thank you guys for watching. Goodbye. See you next week.